Well, hello, visitors to and denizens of the YouTubeverse. I'm John, your social hermit in the woods, and in this video I wanted to show how to make smoked salmon patties. Any of you who watch my channel realize that a lot of my focus is on trying to be as self-sufficient as I can, um, really just like the satisfaction of it. Smoked salmon is a really easy thing to do here. There's a large sockeye salmon run that goes by in the lake here, just a few hundred meters from where I'm sitting right now. And I'm kind of a novice at fishing for these, but even so, I had no trouble getting about 10 of these this year, and they average about 5 pounds a piece. People who know what they're doing, I was seeing pull in 2 and 3 times that. So yeah, it's not a hard job to get yourself 100 or maybe even 150 pounds of salmon a year. And what do you do with it all? Well, one of the things I did was fillet it, which I'm not very good at, but I still have 10 fingers and I got most of the bones out. So I make fillets and brined and smoked the salmon, which is an interesting process itself, and I'll show in a later video. And then I take portions of it and vacuum seal it and then freeze it. Vacuum sealers, by the way, I absolutely love mine. Yes, they're a little bit expensive for the material, but if you have a lot of small portions of things like game, fish and game, and fruit that you want to store really well, it is really, really nice because it keeps really well. Anyway, so this is a portion of homemade smoked sockeye salmon. This is, I'd say, about a half a pound of it here, August of last year. And what I'm going to do is take this and make patties out of it. Okay, so the first step is going to be to take the salmon out, get rid of any skin on it. I don't think there is any on this one, and flake it apart. And that's a chance to remove any bones that got through due to lack of skill in the filleting process, which would be me. I consider it more or less successful if I still have 10 fingers when I'm done. There we go. Boy, doesn't that look good? That is a really nice piece, and this is towards the tail, which even for me does fillet pretty easily. So I don't think we have many bones. Okay, so step number one, take this. Oh, there we go. Try to avoid getting things like that in there. Um, Step number one, take this and just flake it up into little pieces. If there's any skin, peel that off. Okay, that's our smoked salmon, about a half a pound, all nicely flaked up and any offending bones removed. The next step is we're going to chop up some onion really fine. We're going to do about a quarter of a cup of finely minced onion, and we're going to crush up 1 garlic clove. Personal taste here, but you probably want to cut the onion fairly fine, um, just so the texture of this works out nicely. Okay, and I said we needed about a quarter of a cup, so let's see, that should be about right. Okay, and we're going to mince up or crush 1 garlic clove. I'm going to use a fairly big one here. I like garlic. I could use a garlic press, but I find with 1 clove you waste a lot with a garlic press. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this like so. You also want about a quarter cup of breadcrumbs. So I have some here. This is kind of a fairly coarse homemade breadcrumbs out of fresh loaf I made today. I just took a little bit and did that. Okay. Next, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. About 1. Of course, it sticks, so. 2, and we're going to do about one tablespoon of mustard. Now I'm going to use a nice Dijon that I like here. Okay, about a tablespoon of that. We're also going to grate about a quarter of a cup of cheese. Now I'm going to use mozzarella here because I don't have a lot of choices on hand right now. I think an Asiago would actually be really good for this, but you know, when you're 80 kilometers, 50 miles away from the grocery store, you work with what you have. So there we go. Not much, about a quarter of a cup. Throw that in there as well. And it's going to be a good night for these. I don't know if you can see that mixture of sleet and hail and rain coming down on the slowly melting snow out there, but tasty salmon patties are going to go good tonight. Okay, next step is I'm going to add some spices. So I'm going to add about a half a tablespoon of dill. Fresh dill would probably be really ideal, but you just saw the weather out the window. And so there we go. We'll go with the dried stuff. I do grow dill in my greenhouse here, and so that's an easy thing to get, and I usually have a lot of it. And then black pepper. I'm going to do this by eye. I'm going to do a fair bit. There we go. I think that's about good. And I want 1 egg. Now I'm actually going to pre-beat the egg because it'll make it a little bit more uniform, I think. All right. Now, before I even put the egg in, I'm going to stir the rest of the salmon, onions, garlic, cheese, breadcrumbs, and spices around. There we go. I think you can see that. Got a little bit of fresh parsley would go well in there too, or some cilantro. Okay, so that's kind of uniform. Okay, now we're going to pour in our beaten egg. And I'm going to mix that around. Okay, you can see the texture on that looks pretty good now. That's going to form up. And so now I'm just going to form that into patties and set it aside for a little bit. Work that in your hands, squeeze it down, and then form it out into a little patty about a centimeter thick. So a little bit under half an inch. So there we go. We got 5 nice little patties out of that. So if you want to scale the recipe up, gives you an idea how much you need. Remember, that was about a half a pound of smoked salmon there. Okay, you can set these aside. If you're going to make these well in advance, I would put them in the fridge. But I'm going to be doing everything else pretty quickly here, so I'm just going to set them aside, clean up the kitchen, and then prepare the other little side dishes, and we'll carry on with these in a minute. Now, while the rice is cooking, I'm going to heat up a large nonstick skillet or fry pan, depending on your choice of vernacular. And I'm going to use olive oil to do this. Not normally something I use as a frying oil, but I think it'll add a nice flavor here. And I'm not going to do a lot. I'm going to say about a tablespoon and a half. Enough to coat the bottom with more than a skim, but you don't want these to be greasy. You just want them to cook well and not stick. So let's get that in there and get that pan heating up. I want it to be pretty hot before they go in there because they're actually going to cook very quickly. The egg is the only thing in there that's not cooked already, really. I mean, you don't care about the onions and the garlic, whether they're raw. Okay, that oil is good and hot, so let's go ahead. This pan is big enough. I should be able to fit all of these in here. There we go. A good sizzling sound, that's a good sign. Pop the lid back on. Now we're not going to cook these very long. Only about 3 minutes aside is going to be about all they're going to need. All right, those have had just over 3 minutes on that side. So we're going to take them. They're quite fragile, so you want to flip them carefully. And you can see they got that nice browned look. One of the things you don't get on video is how good they smell, and boy, they smell delicious. Okay, they've had 3 minutes on the other side. So let's take them out of there. And I'm going to carefully transfer them onto a little bit of paper towel just to get rid of any excess grease. Okay, well there we have that. It looks good, it smells good, but this is kind of the thing that calls out for, well, if we were pretentious, we would call it an aioli, some sort of a sauce. But rather than making something and drizzling over it, what I'm going to try, and this is an experiment, so let's see how it works. I'm going to make a little bit of a dipping sauce here out of wasabi and lime juice. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll go ahead and give this a try. And incidentally, if you don't have wasabi and don't want to go out and buy it, bear in mind, this is really just finely ground horseradish and green food color. Most of the stuff you buy isn't actual real wasabi. Okay, let's give this a try. Mozzarella makes it kind of stick together a little bit. Try a little piece plain. That is really good. Let's try a little bit now. We'll just dip it into wasabi and lime juice here. Ooh. It's potent wasabi, but that is really good on there. Okay, well, this is John, your social hermit in the woods, about to have his dinner. I hope I gave you some ideas. There are a lot of minor variations you could do on this. Things that come to mind right away for me are changing the cheese. Like I say, Asiago I think would be really good here. Slightly different herbs. I think celery seeds would go in there, and maybe a dash of cayenne, in particular if you're not going to do a wasabi dressing. Changing the different mustard or different ratio on some of the ingredients, or maybe some Worcestershire sauce. All things you could put in there to your own taste. But as I've shown you here, these are absolutely delicious. Until next time, this is John the Social Hermit, about to enjoy his dinner.